You graduate top of your class at Yale Law, Federal Clerkship, Law Review. The kind of resume that gets whispered about in marble hallways. The Department of Justice wants you, so does a white shoe firm in Manhattan. You choose the firm. They offer you $215,000 starting salary, a signing bonus larger than your parents' mortgage, and an office on the 52nd floor overlooking the Hudson. The partners tell you this is where power lives. You believe them. Your first 2 years are mechanical. Due diligence. Compliance memo. 2 a.m. red lines. You bill 2,600 hours a year and convince yourself exhaustion is prestige. You defend corporations from regulatory fines. You structure tax vehicles in Delaware and Luxembourg. It's all legal. Aggressive, but legal. Then you get your first private client. He's on the cover of magazines. A tech founder turned billionaire before 35. Net worth north of $40 billion. You're flown to his estate in Northern California. Security gates. Facial recognition cameras. A private security detail that used to work for intelligence agencies. He doesn't want litigation. He wants silence. An employee is preparing to leak internal documents. The documents show the company knowingly harvested biometric data without consent. Not technically illegal yet, but it will be. And when it is, the retroactive liability could vaporize billions in market cap. Your job isn't to argue in court. Your job is to make sure there is no court. You negotiate a severance package with a non-disclosure agreement so dense it could double as a doorstop. You include liquidated damages clauses that would bankrupt 3 generations. You remind the employee that whistleblowing sounds noble until you're litigating against a legal team that bills $15 million a month. The leak never happens. The stock price rises 6%. You get a $2 million discretionary bonus. 5 years in, you're no longer just a lawyer. You're discreet. That word follows you. Discreet with offshore trusts in the Cayman Islands. Discreet with shell corporations in Singapore. Discreet with art purchases that move $80 million across borders without raising eyebrows. You design structures so opaque, even regulators get tired halfway through. A hedge fund billionaire calls you at 3 a.m. His fund has been front-running trades using information obtained from a friendly senator's staff. If exposed, it's prison. You don't panic. You coordinate internal investigations that conclude procedural misunderstandings. You guide voluntary disclosures that reveal just enough to appear transparent. You help draft testimony for a congressional hearing. He pays a $900 million fine. His net worth increases by $3 billion the following year. You tell yourself you're not hiding crimes. You're managing risk. You're preserving shareholder value. You're protecting jobs. You're a professional. 10 years in, you have a new title. Managing Partner Special Situations. Translation. You fix things that cannot become public. A luxury real estate mogul is under investigation for laundering foreign money through Manhattan properties. The funds trace back to sanctioned oligarchs. If the press connects the dots, it's not just fines, it's geopolitical fallout. You restructure ownership overnight. LLCs dissolve, assets transfer. Beneficial ownership becomes a maze of nominee directors and trusts layered across jurisdictions. By the time journalists file requests, the trail is gone. They write a vague article about complex financial networks. Nothing sticks. The first time you feel something crack inside you is in London. Private club, dark wood, old money. A media billionaire slides a folder across the table. Inside are photographs, text messages, settlement drafts. They involve a minor. He doesn't ask you to look closely. He just says, "I need this contained." You consider refusing. You imagine calling law enforcement. You imagine headlines. Instead, you quote a retainer. $5 million up front, non-refundable. He wires it before dessert. The witnesses recant. The complainant signs an NDA with penalties that exceed lottery winnings. The story never runs. The billionaire donates to 3 charities and announces a new scholarship program the following week. His public approval ratings climb. That's when you start building your insurance policy. Not a simple backup, a vault. Encrypted servers distributed across Switzerland, Iceland, Singapore. Multi-key authentication. Dead man protocols. Inside, everything. Every draft contract. Every incriminating email you were asked to delete. Every settlement agreement. Every quiet payoff. You never told them you kept copies. They never asked, because they assume loyalty. They assume you serve them. But loyalty in your world is structured, not emotional. Mutually assured destruction is more reliable than trust. You have secrets on venture capitalists manipulating startup valuations, on pharmaceutical executives suppressing trial data, on defense contractors overbilling wartime logistics contracts by billions, on senators who trade stocks hours before classified briefings become public. You don't speculate. You have proof. Your clients pay you for silence. 6 figures for embarrassing secrets. 7 figures for career-ending secrets. 8 figures for prison-level secrets. Your annual income eclipses $50 million. You own homes in New York, London, Dubai, each held through separate entities, each stocked with passports and contingency plans. You never married. Not because you couldn't, because attachments are leverage. You've seen what happens when leverage is used against people like you. At 55, you're worth over $600 million, and you're untouchable, not because you're powerful, because you're dangerous. If you're indicted, your vault releases curated files to investigative journalists across 5 continents. If you disappear, the release accelerates. If you die unexpectedly, everything goes public. You drafted the triggers yourself. You're a lawyer. Of course you did. The billionaires think you work for them. They think you're their shield. They don't realize you became something else years ago. You're not hiding secrets anymore. You're holding them. You've quietly influenced mergers by threatening disclosure at strategic moments. You've nudged elections by advising certain clients to withdraw funding at precisely the wrong time for their opponents. You've ended careers without ever speaking publicly. A single encrypted message is enough. The paranoia is constant. You assume every room is recorded. Every handshake is strategic. You rotate phones weekly, travel without predictable patterns, speak in hypotheticals, even when discussing reality. You don't trust anyone, especially not yourself. Lately, though, something has shifted. You're approaching 60. You have no heirs, no protégés, no legacy except confidentiality. When you die, the vault opens, and the world will see how fragile its heroes really are. They'll see how many fortunes were built on suppressed reports, how many visionaries avoided consequences through settlements, how many institutions survived only because people like you kept the door closed. You tell yourself you were just a lawyer, operating within the rules, but you know better. You didn't just interpret the system, you reinforced it. One day, maybe soon, you might decide to trigger the release yourself. Not for justice, not for redemption, but because power unused becomes boring. And the only thing more intoxicating than protecting billionaires is watching them panic. Or maybe you'll keep going. Another client, another secret, another retainer, wired before sunrise. You pour a drink and look out over the skyline. Somewhere below, a young associate is celebrating their first big case, dreaming about partnership, about wealth, about influence. They think the law is about truth. You know it's about leverage. Your secure phone vibrates. Unknown number. You answer. A familiar voice says, "We have a situation." You don't ask what kind. You already know.